What are the key issues, Phil Ayliffe?
The key issues are the fact that we're here today to show that soldiers are not committing these crimes and atrocities in Iraq individually. It's actually a policy from the top, from the top general to the U.S. president. They're all implicit, and by sending soldiers to go and fight and die in an illegal war is causing this country to become a polarized, go into a crisis. And so for us to be able to speak out on our experiences, I think is most important, to be able to articulate our opposition to the war for the American people and be able to show them that this is something from the top. These atrocities, Abu Ghraib, Haditha, are policies of the U.S. government and not individual soldiers.
What is the attitude of most soldiers you've talked to? What is the attitude at Fort Drum, in Fallujah, where you were in the city of Abu Ghraib?
The attitude right now is that a lot of soldiers are going back on their third, fourth, fifth deployment, and they're not seeing any progress. The biggest thing that I heard from soldiers coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan was that, I went there, I was told that we were going to be rebuilding the country, and the worst thing to come back to is knowing that we made no progress in the country, that conditions were the same from when we got there to when we left. And so I think that there is a lot of demoralization within the military. I think that's one of the largest problems. And I think that soldiers right now are looking for another option. They're looking for something else. The U.S. military is having a very hard time with retention right now, trying to keep people in. And so for us to be able to bring our brothers and sisters home, I think that is the most important thing to them right now.
What is the attitude of your superiors in the military?
The superiors in the military are very threatened by what we're doing because of the fact that we have a voice that we never had, that we didn't have, a few years ago. We have a way of actually articulating our opposition to the war as veterans, as active duty members who have actually been to Iraq and Afghanistan. And so for the people that they're sending over there to fight, to say that this war is wrong, it's immoral, it's illegal, I think is most threatening to them, and it shows the kind of social power that we have, that they're willing to try to discredit us or speak out against us.
Phil Ayliffe, the issues of health care and veterans.
Veterans health care right now is a crisis within the U.S. military and the VA. Traumatic brain injury and PTSD, the two signature wounds of the war, are not being treated at the rate that they should. Soldiers are coming back and they're not being screened after 90 days for post-traumatic stress disorder, and there's no screening for TBI at Fort Drum right now for every soldier coming home, and so that's what we want to win, because the crisis right now is so bad that it may take soldiers 2 years to get VA benefits, and a lot of soldiers are actually missing benefits from the Army because they're being discharged they're either being chaptered for personality disorders and pre-existing conditions, or they're being just let out with no screening at all.
Your plans this weekend? My
plans this weekend is to speak out on the war, about my experiences, and to speak about GI resistance to the American people, because I think that we're here today to inspire America. We're here today to build a movement to end this war. And I think that by creating a dialogue, by creating a way of expressing our opposition, we're actually creating a spark for the rest of the movement to be able to go forward and win the end to the war in Iraq and Afghanistan.
You were an Army corporal?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
How old are you?
I'm 21 years old.
You were in the military for how long?
I was in the military for 3.5 years.
Phil Ayliffe, I want to thank you for being with us. Just out, released on Friday. Phil Ayliffe here at National Labor College for Winter Soldier, as we go back again to 1971, the original Winter Soldier.
I arrived at the base camp of the 1st Cav, which is Hill 29. When I arrived there, my S2, my captain, told me that my job was to elicit information. This meant that I could elicit information in any means possible. He told me that I can use any technique I can think of, and the idea is don't get caught. And what he meant was I could beat these people, I could cut them, I could probably shoot them. I never shot anyone, but I could use any means possible to get information. Just don't beat them in the presence of a non-unit member or person. That's someone like a visiting officer or perhaps the Red Cross. And I personally used clubs, rifle butts, pistols, knives, And this was always done at Hill 29. The important point here is that everything I did was always monitored. An interrogator is always monitored. I was monitored by an MP sergeant at Hill 29, who often helped me in my interrogations.
That was 1971, Detroit, the Howard Johnsons in Detroit. Several Vietnam veterans who testified at the original Winter Soldier hearings are in attendance this weekend, including Bill Perry, longtime member of Vietnam Veterans Against the War. He served as a combat paratrooper in Vietnam, was wounded in action, suffers from combat PTSD, post-traumatic stress. Bill Perry, welcome to Democracy Now!
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So it was a Howard Johnson in Detroit. How did it happen then?
It was interesting. 11 of us from Philadelphia were shanghaied pretty much by Dr. Kenny Campbell, who teaches at University of Delaware now, and Dr. John Bjornson, who was, at the time, he was a major and a surgeon in the Army, but he eventually morphed into being a shrink because he worked with Dr. Bobby J. Lifton and Dr. Hy Shaitan on developing what we were experiencing in collective situations and communal situations dealing with our post-traumatic stress disorder. Back then, they called it, I mean, it originally was battle fatigue and things like that, and it became Vietnam syndrome and post-traumatic stress syndrome. And then after they observed us and after they took notes on us, after they studied us and did empirical research, it became post-traumatic stress disorder by the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, III, which has now been pushed up to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual 4, and we got number 5 coming out next year. So it's established and accepted worldwide and studied worldwide, and it's a heck of a thing. It's been out there for quite a few millennia. You know, Homer and Bedelia and the Odyssey and all them cats back in the day, they all had it. You know, we've had it all through the history.
And how has it affected you?
How's it affected me? It's affected me deeply. It's gotten me for 40 years opposing what I consider to be unjust occupations, nasty, unnecessary wars. And
Post-traumatic stress.
It's gotten to